A day today has been what I thought was going to be the end of the impeachment. A little roller coaster in the middle. Still the end. Still we find out 43 cowards, complicit Republicans voted to acquit. And then they tried to make their little justification at the end. I'm hoping that the Attorney General goes and says, hey, we need to indict now. And to be honest, if I had my choice between him being impeached and convicted or him being indicted and convicted, I'm going to go with indicted and convicted because I think jail time, at least on the short term, is much more in my favor than just a stain on his record throughout history, which that's there anyway. So today I thought it'd be a great opportunity to reach out to a couple of our friends, have a little roundtable as this clears up and maybe what happened. Why and where we go from here. I've asked our good friend Scott Dworkin to come talk with us, co-founder of the Democratic Coalition. Also, our good friend David Yankovich, one of my favorite digital strategists across the country. And, of course, the professor, my executive producer, Brett Pransky. Guys, thanks for taking time for us.
And thanks for having us.
Thank you, Rick.
So let's start with you, Scott. Thoughts on today's ordeal?
You know, it's like this big picture, guys. Like, there's like this, like, it's like his stench is like permeating off the air, where it's like he's sort of disappearing and becoming the most irrelevant human being on the planet. And so there's this like glorious sort of like his time is over, and then there's this resistance kind of like fire burning of like, I wanted those witnesses. I want like and things like that, which I think is why the Republican Party is truly in trouble right now, because we have momentum on our side, and we don't have him to distract, from them anymore, and so we can take things head on in a peaceful way. So I think this is the best that we could have gotten based on everything that I've spoken about. Even with the witness part of things, they were going to make that so that it's going to extend for months. And I think we can go in a different route to find out the information. So Speaker Pelosi did announce a few hours ago that they'll be investigating everything that happened around January 6th. I'm not sure if a special commission will come together or what, but it will be investigated. They already have dozens of investigations on the Hill into him and coronavirus and the corruption there and to his entire administration. So I'm looking forward to what's next, and I like how we don't have to deal with some kind of, unhinged lawyer on the other side of things, that we don't have to negotiate with them in bad faith. We have control of the Senate. We have control of the House. They attack the Capitol. Let's investigate it that way, where we have control of things and we can get the truth, because we will get the truth. And I think that's the point here. Whether accountability is served, we'll see. Trump, maybe not, but everybody else will. Absolutely.
That is the hope. David, your initial thoughts on today's and the impeachment so far?
I have a couple of thoughts here. First, seeing Scotty here with the Cleveland Browns hats really distracted me, because I had no idea this whole time he was from my home state. So I gotta say that there's some real loyalty there. I know that you've probably been wearing that same hat for 25 years, huh? So it's finally getting deep in the playoffs. But today I'm pissed off, Rick. I'm really pissed off. I like that we're going after the Republicans in the way we're supposed to, but and the witnesses and everything else that we lost today out of doing this. I know we have to get to the business of the American people, and I know that it's important, and I know we have to turn the page and turn the chapter and everything else. But I think long term, the damage that we've done by not telling the true story of what's happened here, all of it, and not going into the totality of all the witnesses and not making the nation go through a grueling process to understand just how close Mike Pence got to getting killed, how close that they were searching for intel in the Senate chambers to use against Democrats and against everybody. And so, Mike Pence almost got separated from his nuclear football. And from, that piece of it, national security interest was, majorly at stake. Nancy Pelosi, we know was, steps away from him. Her staff was hiding in the office while they were kicking doors in. All of these tales and all of these things, I know they're going to come to light through a billion books and everything else, but the nation needed to heal together. I don't know if we've gotten to have that moment where everybody gets to collectively look at this and see everything as it happened and not go down the conspiracies, and that's what's going to happen now. We didn't get our stories, we didn't get our witnesses, and now it's going to be conspiracy land for the Republicans till the rest of the time, and I'm really concerned about that. So I'm more pissed off and on edge. Also, we only got 7 Republicans to pick off, that the change on this to be able to say that this isn't right. So me and Scotty's organization here and Richard Ojeda and Vote for Common Good and Demcast have all gotten together and really tried to figure out a way to take on the Republicans. So we're trying to do a big raise there, and it's because of today. It's because we didn't get all this done. So we're going to try them in the court of public opinion and go after them. So that's my initial.
No, that's good. And look, at the end of the day, while 43 Republicans chose Donald Trump over this country, we the people, I got to be honest, we the people have got to look at what was presented over this period of time and go, he's guilty as hell. Even after the fact, you had Mitch McConnell, who I don't trust as far as I can throw him, and I could probably throw him pretty far. I don't trust anything he had to say afterwards, and I give him no points for then trying to justify his vote. Brett, I wanted to get your thoughts. What say you from the front of the class, Professor?
Well, I tell you what, I think I share a lot of feelings in the room right now in terms of my disappointment at what happened today. I was slightly encouraged that there were a couple of surprises in terms of Republican votes that we didn't necessarily think we were going to get that ended up turning our way. But at the end of it, my thoughts about it, after sitting on it for a little while and thinking about it, are kind of fear, because what we've shown here essentially is that nothing is impeachable. Because if this isn't impeachable, then nothing is. And if nothing is, then it's guaranteed we will see this again. It's just a matter of when.
No, which is why, again, going back to what David was talking about, building a machine and an infrastructure to take this on and hold these 43 and others accountable is so very important. And David, how do we help with that? Real quick, if you could give me the 30-second elevator pitch.
Yeah, so I mean, what we're doing is there's 4 organizations here, and we're all hitting it in different ways. Vote for Common Good, it's a Christian organization trying to turn faith-based voters over to the Democratic side here through decency. Of course, I can speak for Democratic Coalition, but we got Funder on the call here, so he can do that piece. But for Demcast, they're organizing through all 50 states, but they're also hitting 4 specific states. For the senators that really need to go here, and I can pull that up in a second, but one of them's going to be Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, and we're going to be going all across. And basically what this is it's pulling. We have so many numbers between all of our groups, between Democratic Coalition, Vote for Common Good, Demcast, and I'm keep forgetting the third one there, but all of us in different realms here are hitting different political factions. With Demcast alone, we're able to hit over 1.5 million people individually through active voting. I know Democratic Coalition's got similar numbers. No Dem Left Behind, with Ojeda is, he's a force to be reckoned with. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to reach as many people as we can through the grassroots, because the Democratic Party at this point, it's not that they're in the wrong, it's that they don't know how to do this. And it's not that they're trying actively to do the wrong things when it comes to campaigning, but the grassroots needs to handle this a little bit more. And I think we're going to be a little bit more into the fight of it. So, especially having Ojeda into it, we're going to be going after them. This is a fist fight. It's a knife fight. And this is the critical stuff that we have to do. We saw today, and Brett, what you talked about, that hit me really hard, that fear. I'm afraid too. I'm afraid that what's going to happen if we lose in 2022, they're going to impeach the Democratic president, and they'll impeach the vice president, and they'll keep impeaching until they put someone in power. Or we lose in 2024 here. And what's going to happen at that point? Like we are now in the end game. There is a zero-sum, game for us here to be playing. If we lose any of these elections, and we lose any seats, if we lose the House, if we lose the Senate, the presidency, we're in big damn trouble. So what we're doing with these organizations is hitting the grassroots in a way that's never been done before, and we're organizing together in a way that we haven't done yet. And the hope is in this that we're going to be able to reach enough Democratic and independent voters out there and Republican voters to sway this thing, especially when it comes to faith-based, which is why we brought Vote for Common Good into this.
And we'll get links out on how folks can take a look at and fund some of this in what was the longest 30-second elevator pitch ever in history. Nice job.
I forgot about that part. Wait, we got an hour. We got an hour.
Let's move on to the big news today. The big news today that I was excited about, really going, yeah, we're going to get witnesses. Even Lindsey Graham said that we needed to hear from Representative Butler. And then, well, we moved back, and there was a lot of talk about, well, the Democrats have caved. And I'll be honest, my first reaction is, I'm not surprised. This is what Democrats do. But then, as I was looking back, thinking through, do we want to have 301 witnesses as the Republicans had, said they were going to pitch? I'm curious where you guys found yourself. Scott, when you heard that we were going to call witnesses, what was your first reaction? And then how did you walk through it as it played out?
I was ecstatic. I was thrilled that, we were going to have witnesses. All of a sudden, I've been told no, for months and months, for a very long time. Since the first impeachment as well. So I was ecstatic about it. And I guess that was problematic, is to get your hopes up on something like that. I think that was the silliest part of it, is that I let myself get excited about it when I should know better. And so I think just talking through with different members and staff and different Dem people involved, it seems like, based on their nuclear option of what Ernst was threatening and their crazy different things, it seems like they were willing to basically toss the entire COVID relief plan or something, stall it. I know they were trying to make up every excuse. The Republicans were. So I'm not sure. I would say that I wouldn't have trusted anybody else to make that decision outside of Rep. Raskin, and I'm not defending, because again, I completely disagree with that. But again, he's the constitutional lawyer, and I'm not.
Right.
But I think given to what we had and the timing we had, I think it was great. The one benefit of this, I think, out of anything, is Trump is done. He is he's not existent in regards to the relevance of the party. But as we've always learned and we've reminded ourselves, is even though Trump's gone, it doesn't mean his stench and his cancer has not spread and gone away. And we've seen where the fight now brings that to the front lines of whether or not we need to remove and expel different members of Congress. And we'll continue down those rabbit holes. And I don't think that they're prepared for what was the resistance and now is in leadership. I think that's a great point that David has, is that going from, we're fighting against this, we're fighting to like, we're going to legislate this, we're going to pass this, we're going to subpoena these people, we're in charge, deal with it. We have a mandate, we intend to use it. And so I think that swagger's got to come back. And I think, with Biden getting his footing and the White House doing the same, I think that we've got I think it's good to get rid of this element of Trump, just looking in a positive way. I mean, again, I'm just saying in a positive way, but nobody in this on the planet wanted witnesses more than me. Like I would have wanted everybody, and I would have been like, bring it, Speaker Pelosi, bring her on. Like that, she would love. I'm sure she'd love to testify, and she will rip you to shreds. Good luck.
No, I absolutely with you. I want those witnesses, and I would have wanted the 301 Republican witnesses to come out, and I'd love to have them perjure themselves and all of that. But as my mind then went to 301 witnesses takes a lot of time. We don't get the rescue package pushed through. We don't get money for state and local governments. We don't get the COVID stuff done. We definitely don't get infrastructure. We don't get the PRO Act. We don't get anything other than this.
People die. I think that's the key, is that, and I didn't want to talk, but like, Americans will die if we don't get that COVID package. There's thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not more, will die. People are going to struggle. Millions will struggle. They will go into, I don't even know what the word would be, but they'd be evicted at least.
No, it'd be really painful.
We've got a lot. So that makes a good point as well. But lives are on the line. I think that's the one thing we need to remind ourselves of, is there is a pandemic. And if we do have this impeachment trial distraction, can we get that information via the committees? And I think we can. And I think that's the key here, is they'll have more latitude to go into it. That's just my opinion.
Well, let's hope so. But David, I wanted to get your thoughts, because to be honest, I was thrilled. We're going to get Lindsey Graham changed his mind, and we're going to have Lindsey freaking Graham says we want to hear from witnesses. And then when they backed off, I was really ticked off. But then it started to dawn on me that Republicans, when they play for scorched earth. They will burn the House down, as where Democrats give a shit whether someone dies, as Scott pointed out.
Yeah, I mean, I, I'm mad. I was mad then, and I keep thinking, Scott, what you just said. I started typing a note to myself here that we are literally in a situation where people are going to die. They're going to die no matter what we do, whether Democrats move or whether they don't move. And the Democrats are doing everything they freaking possibly can here to save as many people as they possibly can, while there is an entire apparatus, foreign, domestic, everything that is distorting any kind of truth of what they're doing right now. And they can't play the same game that the Republicans are playing. That's the fury that I feel. It's this. We aren't getting anything done here. The Senate's not deliberating. We're not being able to move the country. They're willing to put a gun to every American's head and blow their brains out for power. And we can't sell the message that they're doing that. That's where I'm mad. That's the anger that hits me today, the witnesses and everything, because we can't, no matter, people are dying every second. What is it, like every 17 minutes we have a Benghazi right now, and how many hearings, how many hours do we have to sit through? Hillary Clinton did what, a full day with one bathroom break? Like, we have not even done anything like this for any of what's happened in the last 4 years on Donald Trump at all. There hasn't been any of this from the Democrats, really. And that fight when we saw earlier, and when they started to back off and kind of come down, even when the incitement on the Capitol happened, and we had that moment where people kind of for a second said, "Oh my God, like we've gone too far." Now we know where the line is, where everybody starts to think, and it is literally, they're almost getting killed in the Capitol. And here we are now, and a week later, and I guess my frustration is all of this, that we have to govern while they are doing this, and we have to somehow look good while people are dying, and then they're blaming it on us. Like, that's the conundrum that the Democratic Party faces right now. And so today we needed this. I think this is a missed opportunity for it. Now, short term, yes, it's good to get to the work of the American people. Long term, for history's sake, for all of it else, I think that this is a big mistake for the Republic and for what we're going through as a country.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, I'm still hoping there's an indictment coming down, and then we can get to those 301 witnesses and maybe throw some of them in jail as well. Brett, I wanted to get your thoughts on how this transpired.
Yeah, I mean, I think I share the frustration of the rest of the group when it came to it. To me, it looked like they gave up on witnesses too easily and too quickly and didn't get a whole lot for it. And that seems to be the perception you're seeing in a lot of places. But then again, when you look at what's happening and then what's not happening, which is, the legislative schedule and the COVID aid and the things like this, things we really need to get done. I mean, we're on a pretty short clock here. We basically have 2 years to prove to the American people that the U.S. government can be a force for good. And we have to do that with significant opposition. And the longer this trial goes on, I do believe that there's going to be a point at which the people are going to be like, come on, get on with it already. And I think that the impeachment managers kind of saw that coming. Now, I didn't think we were quite there. But, and I think this whole thing ended a little too quickly. And I think we gave up on witnesses a little too quickly. At some point, we do have to recognize that if we don't get a lot of work done in a very short period of time, that this whole thing can and possibly will blow up in our faces.
But what do you say, guys, to the person who says, well, Jamie Raskin got what he wanted. He got Jamie Herrera Butler's statement in without any cross-examination, which was what it was, that Trump said that Kevin McCarthy cares more about himself than he does about the election. That the people in that they're storming the Capitol, about to kill them, care more about him, about Trump in the election than Kevin McCarthy does. I think that's pretty powerful. I think it's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, actually, it didn't surprise me at all when I heard about the phone call between Trump and McCarthy. When Trump was like, "Well, I guess they just care more about the election than you do," and he was talking to a person whose life was in danger the very moment he was talking to him on the phone. He didn't care at all, and that didn't surprise me one little bit. When I heard that, the first thing I thought was, yeah, that sounds exactly like Trump.
It does sound exactly. So I guess the
I just want to piggyback there real quick, Rick. Before we go on to the next piece of this, McCarthy, while we're talking about this, originally, remember, he was in a room with Paul Ryan, and he was the one who said Donald Trump's getting paid by Putin, I swear to God, or a line along that. So like it's gone from this point here where, originally he's been, saying he's being paid by Putin, to getting yelled at in the Capitol by the president saying, I guess they didn't like what you're doing, to now making the statements and votes and everything. The mental hurdles that it takes for me to try to do the exercise there to think about how his brain works is ridiculous. But I don't want to forget about that. The very beginning of this, he said, I swear to God, I think Trump's getting paid by Putin. And here we are. So I want to continue there.
No, this is a good place.
That's a really important piece of this.
No, this is a good place to pick up on this because, I said, a couple of days ago that the only way I see the Republicans voting to acquit Donald Trump is if they're cowards or if they're complicit or obviously both. And I think it plays into a lot of this because you had Lindsey Graham, you had Ted Cruz, you had Marco Rubio, you had all of those guys on the presidential stage, who were saying he's a horrible human being, he's terrible, he's the end of this, to then kissing his ass. It's like a whiplash of where their positions have been. At some point, does that not play into this? Scott, your thought?
He wanted his donor list. That's why he went down to Mar-a-Lago. He wanted his donor list, which Trump did not give him. And I think he wants the internal list where it's the emails and the cell phone numbers and things like that. He's trying to get it for the party so that they could rip Trump out of it.
So is it really just about could you really go, this is just about the money? This is about the donors this is about them, not giving really a shit about Donald Trump, but it's really about the moneyed interest?
Yeah. I mean, I think that they're going to get rid of Trump quicker than we could think. They'll probably already start acting like they never met with him. He was never president. They wanted this over as quickly as possible. At the same time, they also wanted to keep on going because it was a good distraction for them to try and put up other fights, left in the Senate and whether we're going to have different confirmation hearings. They like seeing Biden fail, so that I'm sure that there were some attempts there. So I think that we're just, it's a long road that we're on. We're still on this marathon that we hoped we had ended, I guess. And I think, when the last time I finished a marathon, I didn't know that I had finished. Literally, I didn't know I crossed the finish line. I was still jogging, and trust me, it was jogging. And I didn't know that we had stopped. But I think we're into a new phase. David made a great point about this, is we moved into a new phase, and we need to recognize the gravity of the moment where we take the leadership position so that we can actually develop our platform and pass it. And I think that being the force for good that we are, being able to not have to fight the evil, but actually be able to present the positive of like, this relief bill is going to save lives, we need to pass it, blah, blah, blah. Like that sort of positivity is going to be toxic in a positive way. And so I think we have a bright future. I wouldn't be too upset about today in general is what I would hope most people, because I think that I'm upset overall with everything that went on today. But I think I'm able to let it go because I'm a Browns fan and I have some disappointment in my life. So.
There you go. No, but here's the thing. I'm really angry, but not as much at the Democrats as I am at the Republicans, because at the end of the day, the answer to this is not that the Democrats totally caved. It's that the Republicans are cowards and complicit, and they chose Donald J. Trump over this country. So all of their bullshit rhetoric about country first, I don't ever want to hear again.
Yeah, they're not America first. And you can never talk about, I love the police or I love America, or I don't know how they can look Officer Eugene Good, or not officer, whatever he is now in his new role. But, I don't know how they can give him that medal and not actually follow through. I mean, I know how they can do it because they are who they are, but I just don't know as a human being how you can walk in that building every day knowing that you voted for the terrorists and you didn't vote for the police and you didn't vote for your staff and you didn't vote for yourself. Like, that's a cult. And so I think it's pathetic, and it's exactly what we expected. I think that on top of the witness thing is just the general disappointment we did hope that Republicans would have done the right thing here. And it was so overwhelmingly clear that in the back of my head, I was like, maybe. And I think just too much disappointment in one day. But at the same time, the one thing that we get out of it is I don't see anything that involves Trump that doesn't involve criminal elements in the next year. So there's nothing that we'll be fighting him with. There's nothing that will be like he's not involved anymore for the foreseeable future. And I think that is something that maybe we can revel in and enjoy, or try to enjoy for a moment of sanity.
Yeah, or at least build on. David, your thought?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think everything Scott's saying is pretty there. You know, it's so funny that I'm usually the moderate in the room, and you know, the person who's going to the left and being like, you know, you guys need to cool it and strategize this better and everything else. And you know, in this one here, you know, I'm kind of seeing myself more in the middle. You know, I'm more to the left of Scott this time. You know, I think I agree with him. I think that, you know, we have to move this country forward. And I think that the way that we do it is, you know, by focusing on the good and focusing on, well, that's all we have. Like, we only have one option. That's the way I think I can see it. We just have to be authentic to the people and sell it better. You know, I mean, it's a zero-sum game at this point. You know, every day, you know, I mean, thousands and thousands of people are dying no matter what we do. I mean, and the Republicans are willing to put us in a situation where, you know, they don't care.
No,
they don't
but
care
here's
if
the
this
thing,
country
David.
burns to the ground. They don't care if people,
Absolutely. But here's the thing. These people were almost killed for Donald Trump. Their lives could have been snuffed out because of Trump, and they still voted for him. So at the end of it,
Yep.
Who knows what they've got on them? But if you're not going to vote for impeachment under those grounds, I don't know what gets you there. Brett, your thoughts?
It's not, real quick before Brett jumps in, it's not that they aren't doing that because of the power, you know, for the impeachment. They're doing this because they don't want to relinquish what they have in their power sector. You know, every Republican that I know who has said anything or done anything against the Republican Party is no longer allowed to be a part of the Republican Party. You know, you talk to Joe Walsh all the time. You know, there's a lot of them on social media that we know, of course, you know, Bill Kristol and them. And so just before you go into the next thing here, and for Brett, you know, it's that, you know, we can't, like, a Republican that changes their mind and has a soul, they get kicked out, they get thrown out of the party. Yeah. And so that's one thing we continue to see. But I'll let you go to Brett there. But I just wanted to add that this is an ongoing thing.
No, and that's a perfect segue into Brett, because, you know, we look at what's going on with Bill Cassidy right now. You know, it's a perfect point.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to mention next. Is, I mean, that vote took place, just a couple hours ago.
Yep.
And Bill Cassidy has already been censured by the Louisiana Republican Party. I mean, when I look at these things, and we have our own issues, we have our own problems, we have our own agendas and things that we want to get done for the American people. But I like to hop into the shoes of my opponent every now and then and ask the question, how hard must it be to be a Republican right now? I mean, think about the tap dance you have to do. Look what Mitch McConnell had to do today. He voted to acquit Donald Trump and then had to come out in front of a microphone and tell us all the reasons Donald Trump was guilty, because he needs both, he needs to both cast that vote and also make the argument to their big dollar donors who are going to walk because he cast that vote. So, you know, our opposition is in a really difficult position. So we take a guy like Senator Cassidy, okay, who's probably a decent man, but he can't make the racists angry. You know, he's probably a sane man, but he can't say that Q isn't real. And so imagine just the difficult place that our opposition is in. And I think that, you know, while our position is never ideal, it's never exactly where we would want to be, I wouldn't want to be our opposition right now.
No, that's an excellent point. Now, you know, I wouldn't have wanted to be one of Trump's lawyers, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the Trump legal geniuses that came out that didn't really have anything of a defense. I got to be honest, this Vanderveen guy was my favorite today, and, you know, the temper tantrum that he threw. But let's start with you, Scott. What did you think of the brain trust on the Trump side?
I was going to say, what lawyers? I mean, these were propagandists, and I believe that they should never be able to practice law ever again, lying from the Senate floor. One of the most egregious statements that I heard from them is he directly said, in 2016 the Russians didn't attack our election, and I was just that was just so outlandish because that Senate body had already decided on that matter that the Russians did in fact attack. So it was very crazy to see so many lies come out so many times. It probably I didn't know it was possible, but with Powell and Giuliani combined, they were worse than that, and it was embarrassing as an American. It brought shame to our country, and I don't think that in the end it's going to reflect well on their law practices for the rest of their lives. It's not like it was pretty pathetic how they kept on acting like so outraged about everything except the fact that Officer Sicknick is dead and 6 other people are dead and 140 police officers were hurt. Some of them will never return back to work. You have friends of mine that work on the Hill that won't go back into their office because they're literally scared to go back in the buildings. And so you're trying to basically be a defense for a person who's on video committing the murder. And while they're, they're basically saying, ignore that video. Let's focus on these videos from a year ago where somebody else did something that's close to it, but not as serious. But that makes it about even and makes it so this isn't wrong. I mean, there's so many distractions. And I think David made a great point about this too. Conspiracy theories were born out of this. They created conspiracy theories from this. One of them being fabricating evidence, which is a complete lie. When you sit there and you're making a graphic to be presented to the Senate, you can't just bring a tweet over. It's not how it has to be presented. You have to have colors and you have to actually figure it out. And they acted like it was some kind of big scheme to undermine them. The same with, we didn't get this evidence, and they doctored all that. So we're going to have to deal with the fallout of the trial as it is, with the propagandists and OAN and all that nonsense. And so I just find it that people like this should not be allowed to practice law. And it's just a reminder that, apparently anybody can be a lawyer.
David, your thoughts?
I don't even know why they spent money on a lawyer. They should have just put a scarecrow in there with the loudspeaker.
They didn't spend any money. Again, these guys worked pro bono. Trump's not paying them.
Yeah, no
Trump's
way.
never paid anybody.
Or whatever you want to call it. They could have put just a scarecrow with a loudspeaker on there and just said, I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it, because that's what he did. It's the minds were made up by the Republican senators before they got in there. This was, what was it? 13 of them met with the president's legal team the night before everything went down here. What is it? 17 people didn't show up. If I get called for jury duty and I don't show up, I go to jail. These people shouldn't be allowed to be there. They should be disbarred as, any type of attorney anyway, like Scott was saying there. But the members who weren't showing up and participating in a democracy are the ones I'm more angry about. But the attorneys, it's what I expected. We got a clown car and we got a clown show.
That's all you got. Brett, your final thought on that?
Oh, let's see. The involuntarily pro bono lawyers. They were quite the show. And most of it was exactly what that they were asked to do or told to do, by Trump, was to show up and act tough. And what it really reminded me of? I really thought, was it Vanderween? Was that the guy that he looked like Kavanaugh in disguise?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was waiting for him to tell me how much he likes beer. Because when you look, it was literally the same exact performance, to get up, stomp your feet, pound the table, and, and talk tough and really just say nothing at all of any real relevance to the case, but to sound tough, which, again, goes to how we argue. There's nothing in a Trumpian defense argument that has anything to do with reason or is meant to touch any logical part of your brain. It is an emotional appeal. It is always an emotional appeal. I'm going to make you angry, and then I'm going to give you somewhere to direct that anger, and then I'm going to declare victory and walk off stage left. It's what they do every single time, and it's what they did here. And it was nonsense. It had no legal bearing on the case whatsoever. It was done strictly for TV, and so it was kind of a joke.
Yeah. So last question on the impeachment before I move on to something else, because I think, to be honest, I said there were going to be 7 Republicans who were going to vote to convict. I said that the other day on the show. That was my view. At no point did I ever believe there was any possibility of him being convicted. So to me today, wrapping this up is probably a good thing because we can then move on. I'm curious overall your thoughts of how this rolled out, and I'll tell you, aside from this, we should have done this a month ago. We should have done this a month ago. The morning of the 7th, 4:01 after Pence is president, the articles of impeachment should have been in place. We should have voted by noon. This hearing could have happened before Trump was out of office, in my view. Again, on Mitch McConnell and the Republicans for being cowards again. But I'm curious, overall, your thoughts on this before I move on. Scott, you go first.
Oh, okay. I'm patient. I want to skip a turn. Given everything that we've had to face and how where we're at, I'm trying to be as diplomatic about everything because I'm balancing a lot of people grabbing me from all sides. So it is. I hate saying this, but like this is what it was. We were lucky to impeach him at all. That took effort. That was very strong effort, from the Democrats, and it was not easy to move it that quickly. But I just don't understand why Republicans. I mean, I get why they don't want another, but I just don't understand why they didn't want to follow through and why you want to actually attach your vote to that. I don't think that there's any. I went in there assuming that we could get the votes because I can't run an impeachment campaign without thinking that we can actually win it. I would never run it. But there's the opportunity of possibility, talking to Trump and other people in GOP, like it seemed like it was possible as far, it was out there. It wasn't really a lottery ticket, but it also wasn't a sure thing. So I was optimistic going into it in a very, very cautious way. But, just like as we expected and knew, most of them just didn't care. And I think that it just proves the point that no matter what state they're in, everyone that was involved in any sort of way with the Capitol attack, January 6th, before that, after that, the big lie in any way, has no role in public space at all in general, no role in our government. And we will work until, at least for me, I'll work for the rest of my life to make sure that none of these people have a role and are voted out of office, whether I have to help out Republicans in red states to get across the finish line in a primary. These people do not have a role in our society. This is how we got here in the first place. And so as long as we don't look away from that, I think we'll be okay. But going back to the impeachment rollout, I think that they did the best they possibly could given what we have. And I think if we look back as to how far we've come since January 6th, it's like night and day. It's an entire mountain that we've climbed. I'm very happy that we survived. I'm very happy we made it this far. I'm very happy that there wasn't another attack on January 20th. The bar is so low right now, It's like, I would like to just get to work. But based on what they did with impeachment, they couldn't have presented a better case. Obviously, nothing. It doesn't matter what it was, including the threat of their own lives, would have changed their minds. And so maybe they thought of it as a waste of time because the people who actually, found Trump guilty is the American people. And as you'll see, polling saying so in the 70 percentiles or something like that next week. It's just going to be. Impeachment was effective. I don't think Trump will have a public role in life, but there will be Trumpian Greens and Boberts and people like that who sprout up. We just have to make sure that we confront that peacefully immediately to make sure that they don't become the next Trump. So we've learned our lesson. Now it's time for us to do what David had mentioned, to legislate and take charge. But I'm happy with how impeachment went. The witness thing I'll never get over, but that's just me. That's who I am. I'll bring it up every time I'm around any impeachment manager. I'll be like, I don't understand. Explain it to me like I'm 5. Explain it to me like I'm 3. Explain it to me like 2. I had that conversation 40 times today. So I promised that I wouldn't go there because I'll just start, spiraling onto my thoughts about witnesses.
Oh,
But
please, spiral.
no, we could have done some really wonderful things with that. I think that we can get them in different ways, though. I'm hopeful. I think we were up against too much, and sometimes you just have to be like,
Yeah. No,
this is where we're at.
No, I mean, we're up against scorched earth. We were up against people who literally were willing to burn the house down.
Yes,
David,
yes, exactly.
David, your thoughts?
I mean, I think first off, I want to kind of echo what Scott said here too about the legislation and the impeachment process in a way that it went. Overall, I'm happy. For history's sake, the argument is very clear. When they look back into history books, they're going to look back and they're going to have a very succinct and very credible legal argument versus total idiocy. So I know we're going to win the culture battle. I know we're going to win the ideological and the historic battle. And so our impeachment managers, they really did do a good job of presenting the case in a way that it needed to be presented into. I do want to hit on that. That being said, they kind of take a Cleveland Browns reference there. I feel like the piece of the day today about the witnesses, it's the fumble. It's the moment for me where I'm like, oh my God, oh come on, like we had it right there, but I get you, Scotty, and you're right. We have, again, a lot of people dying every day. And that's not even, maybe the worst piece of this. We don't know how grievous the attack was that they got into through the Pentagon, through the hacking they did, the national intelligence stuff that we lost through Trump being president to Russia. There's just so much out there that we have to be thinking about, and I can't imagine being in the Biden administration or being in the Democratic leadership right now at all. And what you were saying, Brett, about getting inside the Republicans' heads, getting inside even the Democrats' heads, sometimes it's like when I don't understand this stuff, like, if I'm talking to Eric or any of the people there, Ted, and I can't possibly comprehend what they're going through in that moment. And so I do have to give them credit. They did a really good job. So, I mean, on impeachment, I think we had a missed opportunity today. I think it's going to cost us. I think the Democrats continue to miss these opportunities, and that plagues us. But, we have to get back to really being authentic and getting to the work of the American people. Otherwise, they're going to say we're not doing that either.
Yeah.
One of the manager's staff just texted me, and let me just paraphrase: is you don't know what you don't know, and so but when I think of that as like a wink of like, you don't, like, whatever you don't know, remember that you don't know a lot.
Exactly.
And so I know, but we're hot takes, like, we gotta get it now. No, but I agree with what David said. Sorry, Brett. Go ahead.
No, I mean, the reality is we know about this much.
Right.
We're angry and pissed off about this much. And this is why I think the witnesses and doing more of that stuff would have gotten us a more, wide view. But again, I don't think a lot of people were willing to go for the scorched earth. And before we move on to Brett and David, nice job bringing Ernest Beiner into the impeachment.
Hey, you know what?
I'm sure he loves the fact that he had a stellar career, and all we're ever going to remind him for is one little fumble in Denver.
Yeah, well, you know what? I ran for Congress one time, and I had one little fumble. I didn't put a video out. Here I am.
You're stuck with us. Brett, your last thought on this?
Well, when it comes to kind of how this all shakes out, I think there's a couple of things that I know for certain. One is that while we missed a whole lot of witness testimony today, I don't think there's gonna be any lack of witness testimony over the next several years. I mean, I think that's one thing that we're gonna be like, another trial, another witness. I mean, because I can't see any scenario in which there aren't a whole lot of cases coming against a whole lot of different people. There's just been too much criminality for too long for these things not to come out. And that all these different entities were waiting for Trump to vacate the White House so he wouldn't lean on them and destroy these investigations the way he did so many while he was in office. But also, we talk about the arc of the moral universe. It's long, but it bends toward justice. I kind of see the next several years through that lens. The idea is, because I'm kind of a blue dot in a red space out here in my particular part of Ohio. And I have to defend kind of my liberal views quite often. And what I say to people who question my views kind of helps me understand what's going on now, where I see it going. I always tell people that I'm a liberal, which means I think what I think about these issues, and I'll think the same things about these issues 30 years from now. My conservative friends are going to have to, 30 years from now, are going to have to defend the views they have today and why they change them over time. The key being that on the long enough timeline, I win every argument. All right, this idea, democratic values and liberal values, we're going to win every argument over time. And conservatives over time are always going to have to go backwards and defend themselves. Even the most prominent conservative writers out there, people like George Will and so on, he's got to go back and defend, his views, why he was against civil rights. You know what I mean? So, and it's one of those things where we never look like we're winning in the moment, but on a long enough timeline, we're going to win all these fights, every single one of them.
Right there with you. Now let's move on because from this point forward, we got shit to get done. I mean, there's a lot of problems. We've got the pandemic, we've got the economy in tatters, we've got infrastructure that needs to be rebuilt, and we've got a country that is extremely polarized. At this moment, going forward, what's the messaging out of this for Democrats as they try and get this rescue package pushed through? Is this a message for Kelly Simona and or Christian Simona and Joe Manchin and the rest of them that there are no Republicans coming to save us? This is going to have to be the Democrats figuring out how to do things through budget reconciliation or maybe getting rid of the filibuster. I'm curious, Scott, let's start with you. Your thoughts on how we get anything done?
I think the cavalry, I used the word, the cavalry is here. I think we still haven't recognized that, again, this is the first few hours of Trump not being relevant to anything except criminal investigations. There's no back and forth about Don, it's just not happening anymore. And so adjusting that, this is the rubber band theory that I was talking about. I've talked about this for years. You can't just pound on a majority of Americans over and over again. We turn into weathered people who have been through storm after storm after storm. And you know what? We survived. It took us on. They came to the Capitol or whatever. We won. They lost. I get what they did. He got impeached for a second time. They lost the Senate. They lost the House. They lost the White House. And they did it because of us. They have people who went to prison. They have people who were arrested. We were able to uncover against the Republican-controlled government. We were able to uncover the Russia scandal that then led to a special prosecutor appointed by Republicans while there was a Republican president. So, I mean, the momentum is
Scott,
on.
let me jump.
Sure.
I want to jump in there real quick. I don't mean to just completely interrupt you, but a lot of the stuff that came out about the Russia stuff was because of what you and your team did here.
Oh, thanks.
And a lot of the stuff that came out with the Trump administration happened to, it was the resistance and people showing up. So when we're talking about the cavalry, and I'm hearing you talk about this, it's you guys, it's us, it's what we're doing with the organizations and all of this. But in the beginning, I can't, how many times have you sued Trump and his team? It's 500 somewhere around there. So. I mean, we have been there every step of every turn. What you've done is incredible. And so that's the Democratic piece of this that I think, we're talking about is they have to govern. We have to make them accountable, and that electioneering and that cycle and kind of chasing them.
And we have the seat at the table now. 5 years ago, when I was running around with a report on these are Trump's Russian ties around the Hill and running to press, nobody was listening to me. But you know who did listen? Eric Swalwell, Adam Schiff, people who are champions now for us. And it's because they look like, oh, this is right in front of our faces. I think, we need to look at, it's okay now for us to look down the mountain and be like, whoa, what did we just do? That's amazing. In the grand scheme or whatever, we're winning. It's okay to say that now. We don't plan on losing any seats in the House or the Senate. Keep in mind with the House, Speaker Pelosi held on to that with duct tape while we were focused on the Senate and the White House almost exclusively. I think I helped out with one House race a little bit. So we're now able in the midterms to be able to focus on the House and any state ledge races and also the Senate races with no White House to worry about. And so I think the dynamics are bigger here. The blue wave is not finished. We're just getting started. And so I think what we need to do is we need to prove our theories right, where we need to crush COVID. We need to bring the numbers, skyrocket them down. We need to get injections in people's arms. There's so many problems that we're facing right now. We need to figure out a way to stabilize the country, because right now we're still, the smoke is still here. So we can't really get that justice and what we're really hoping for without, while the world's on fire. Because the reason why there's so many people dead is because Trump didn't do anything. And I think that's another thing, is there's so many criminal elements right here. That, as Brett and David have noted, it's gonna there's gonna be a moment of a reckoning, a legal reckoning, just so I can be clear. There's gonna be that moment which we've all dreamed of. I'm not sure which moment it will be for everybody else, where we recognize that we're in charge now and we have to act like it, because it's time. We earned it. We got voted in for a mandate. People voted us in to investigate this. People voted us in to make sure that we looked into every single crime that they committed and prosecute them. This is not something that we just let it go away. And again, since people like me, David, Brett, you are in the room of these conversations now, sitting across from these other elected officials, we're able to actually say, we need you to confront this issue. Like, this is something that we need to, and you know what? They've already been supporting it. So we know that they've got our backs, but we need them to prove it, and we need them to go all in. And I just want to make sure that remind everybody, we've only been at this for a few weeks. Like, it's less than a month still. And so we gotta, once we get our footing here and the impeachment's behind us, I think it's full speed ahead, and Republicans are not prepared for what's next, which is, I don't want to say the word reckoning, but there's nothing else that you can call it, a legal reckoning, where they realize this is not going to happen. And it'll be exactly what Brett said, where they're going to have to explain away why they voted, for the terrorists, and why they voted against Officer Brian Sicknick and his family.
Let's go to you, David. How are we going to move? How do you see this moving forward? Because, as I said from the beginning of that, we've seen there's no help from Republicans in this. You can extend all the olive branches you want. All they're going to continue to do is snatch it out of your hand and beat the living crap out of you with it. How do Democrats? How do they move the ball forward?
I mean, I do gotta say what Scott said there is true. Back 4 years ago, Rick, even when I first started with you on this, getting the Democratic Party to even tweet something that we wanted them to tweet, we had to go through 75 channels, to get things done. Now, we can just pick up the phone and tell people, hey, this needs to get done, and this is how we have to do it, and we're moving it, and I underestimated the power of what the resistance was going to be when he first got elected. The way that we've organized and the way that we've come together and built coalitions and really kind of done it all throughout this whole time, whether it is pushing back on Russia, pushing on the economy, helping the Senate, helping the House. We've organized on every single step, on every single tier of government now. And we are in the rooms, and we are there. We are winning. That's a really good message. We're like, it doesn't feel like it sometimes, but we're actually, we're going to run out of feet from kicking so much ass we're winning. But it doesn't feel that way, and we still have a lot of ass kicking to do left. And I that's not the language everybody wants to use, but that's what we have to use. We have to kick the terrorist ass. We have to make it shameful for them. We have to have better messaging, we have to show up just to kind of plug the.
You don't have rioters outside your door that are killing police officers. You're not inciting anything. And so they want us to not be able to use these words. I'm not going to use the F word, but imagine that I did.
No, go ahead. You would have gotten. You'd have been. I've been waiting for someone to finally, since we're not on terrestrial radio, to drop it. I've been waiting to celebrate. They're going, yes, finally, someone. But I've got you guys too trained to be doing what we do terrestrial.
No, fuck them.
We're fucking winning.
Fuck them. We did it at the same time. You had two people use the F word at the same time.
And it's rightfully used in this moment because we're fucking winning is right. I'm right there with you. Brett, I want to get your thoughts, man.
Yeah, I'd have to say, because when we think back over the past 4 years and kind of what we've seen and what we've kind of grown accustomed to, because we can get used to some pretty strange new normals. We've had 4 years of one, one guy sucking the oxygen out of every news cycle and inserting new outrages every 12 hours, just for no other reason than to keep the cameras focused on him for the longest time. And as soon as we get him out of office, as soon as we vote him out of office, what does he do? He incites an insurrection. Why? To stay in the news cycle. So even though we're starting the beginning of Joe Biden's presidency, we're still talking about Trump all the time because he manages to keep himself in the news cycle. As we kind of lead America into a new normal that is going to remind them of the old normal that they liked a whole lot more than the normal of the past 4 years, they're going to associate that with the people who are in leadership now. And so I think we do a couple things. We pass a couple pieces of legislation. We do good things for the American people. We show them that government can be a force of good and is a force of good. And I think this is the beginning of bigger victories down the road. There's a lot of caution about what's going to happen in 2022, what's going to happen in 2024, and everybody's a little frightened about that. And reasonably so. You've just been shouted at for 4 years. People have been shouting terrible, awful things at you on a loop for 4 years. It's a little frightening. But when you get past that and get back to the normal and get back to good governance and people who care about other people, because keep in mind, right now our opposition isn't fighting for their own brand of legislation. They're not fighting for their own COVID bill. They're not fighting for their own infrastructure package. They're fighting to do nothing. They're fighting us to do nothing. They're fighting for the opportunity to sit on their hands for the next 4 years. And I think that's going to become more and more apparent as people get back to a new normal and they realize only one side is really trying to do anything for them. So I think this is our beginning, rather than, some, I don't think we're foreshadowing some doom and gloom to come. I think there's a lot more good coming than bad.
No, and this is where I was hoping someone would say, what we learned today is that there aren't going to be 10 Republicans who are going to do anything to help us move the ball forward. Because I believe, as you guys hit on, over the next year, Democrats have got a shot at making people's lives better, whipping this virus, saving the economy, rebuilding the country. We've got a short period of time to do a lot of work, and the Republicans proved to us that they aren't even going to put this country first and holding someone like Trump accountable. So what makes us think that they're going to give a rat's ass about a struggling single mother or an infrastructure or a city that's going to go broke? So for me, it's about Democrats have got to look at what happened. I'm of the mindset, and I'll get your thoughts in a second, filibuster's got to go. We got to ram shit through. We got to get to work and say, look, you got a better idea, bring an idea, but just sitting on your hands and saying we're doing nothing has got to stop. So for me, that's what I was hoping to hear from somebody. Anybody agree?
Oh, I do.
No, I'm with you 100%. Yeah. Rick, just to kind of add into that, that's kind of what, we're doing here. I mean, we're getting four of the biggest organizations that we could find to take after these Republicans who aren't doing anything. They're never going to move. They're never going to make any different decisions. They're going to continue to stop this country and grind it into a halt. So, Demcast, No Dem Left Behind, Democratic Coalition, and Vote Common Good, they've all come together to be able to go after these Republicans and take them on. And if you guys want to donate anywhere on this, it's under Bitly. It's Karma Crew 22. But that's what we're doing. That's how we do this. It's going to be the grassroots that wins. That's we've been winning the last 4 years. We're going to keep doing it.
Good stuff. So last question before we wrap before we get our closing statements in. We keep hearing a lot about unity. We keep hearing from the right, who seems to love to throw the unity word at us now, that they've almost brought the country to its knees. Do you think there's a chance of some kind of unity, or do you believe, as I've come to the reality of anybody who supported not convicting Trump, I don't have any time left for them. If you tell me Trump was not guilty, if you tell me Trump shouldn't have been held accountable, you're a 5 to me. I got no time for you. Do you see unity as a possibility? Start with you, David.
Well, it reminds me of growing up. I hate using the word, and I haven't ever said this publicly, but a victim of abuse. I've gone through a lot of abuse in my life, and whether it's through family members or people I work with, whatever. But I've gone through a ton of abuse, especially emotionally abuse. And my family, they're also a religious family. They're mostly Trump supporters now. Whenever you have that conversation and you win, all of a sudden they cry, and they cry unity or my hand to God. And, they go all there into the religious stuff and everything else. And I grew up with this. When I see this, it's almost like PTSD for me. I know that there's no unity with these people because they don't have unity in them. There's no coming to the table and trying to make a deal when they're not coming in good faith. There's a speech from 2017 that Biden gave in Alabama with Jones, and I was lucky enough to be there that day. And he said that you can attack somebody for their actions, but you can't. Like it used to be, you couldn't attack them for the way that they saw things and their perception of it. And now that when these people are across the table from you, that their entire actions, their perception, everything is not in good faith. And growing up for me, I've seen this a lot. So no, there is no unity with these people. There's no unity in anybody who can vote to, let people die. We have almost 500,000 dead Americans right now. I mean, we have Nazis and literal Nazis in the Capitol building, and they're burning it down, and people are dying, and like, there's no unity for that. And you can't come that's an abuser. That's what abusers do. They want to now play the victim card when the accountability has turned to them. No, we can't do that. Now, when it comes to the Republican voters out there who are just trying to get by and live their lives, absolutely, they're not a part of any of that stuff. They're not they're not voting in the sense of, the way that like Donald Trump is doing. They're voting basically economically for their families, for their wallet, whatever's happening in the moment. And so for them, there's a different sense of unity. But when it comes to us working in government, me and Scotty here and Brett and you and the rest of us, we're going to run them out of town because there is no unity to be made with the Nazis and with people who are insurrectionists.
Let's go to you, Brett. You got a thought?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to kind of take the middle here, but there's kind of a yes and no, to my thoughts on unity. I mean, I think what some of the Republicans showed today is that there are occasions in which they can vote their conscience, even when it's inconvenient. Take someone like Senator Cassidy today, who's already been censured by his state party, will almost certainly face a primary challenge the next time he's up for election and so on. And they're willing to pay that price. Senator Murkowski said something, and she's up in the next cycle. And she said, well, how can I I don't deserve to, I forget exactly what she said, but she basically said she doesn't deserve to run if she can't vote her conscience, that she shouldn't go before the voters. So there are moments where this kind of thing can happen. But that said, there are elements that are just gone, that are so far gone, and that, that can't seem to say anything of any real sense whatsoever. And people who can't deny the Q crazies and can't condemn, white supremacist groups and racism and all these things. And these are people you just have to defeat. So some people we have to roll over. There are probably some people we can work with, but the party apparatus as a whole needs to be seen as an adversary at each and every turn.
I'm right there with you. If you've still got a Trump sign in your front yard, if you said he was not guilty, I don't have time for you. It is that simple. For those other folks who voted for Trump and are sane and rational, and we can have a conversation with, we can talk about unity with them. But if you still got a Trump sign in your front yard, there's no talking with them. Scott, your thought?
There's going to be plenty going the other side. There's going to be plenty of unity. Anyone, except, obviously, if you're going to stand with the Nazis, whatnot, we don't have any interest. Anyone is welcome to unite with us. We're not going to negotiate with our morals anymore. We're not going to negotiate with humanity. We're in the right, they're in the wrong. You're welcome to join us or don't. And if you don't, then get out of our way. That's where we're at as a country, is we know the right way. Look at the blood that they've spelt for the past 5 years. They had their chance. They failed miserably. They've driven this country in the ground. And so now, we can have unity, but it's going to involve them coming to us. We're not negotiating with terrorists anymore. It's not going to happen. So there will be unity, but it's going to have to come with them a big apology and making sure that they clearly own what they've done, and they own Donald Trump. And they're ready to move on from Donald Trump, more than just Moscow Mitch sitting out there doing a fake speech about, I'm so outraged. Like, that speech was more vociferous and fiery than even like McConnell. I mean, sorry, I just talked to myself in this. Schumer. It was worse than Schumer. Like, it was harder hitting than Schumer's. And it's like, if you listen to that text or read that text in the future, you're going to think that he voted guilty. Oh, but technicality, he can't be, he killed the guy. I see that on video. But, look at the date. It's a little late for all that. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. All this insanity for my 20 years being in politics. I'll say this, this vote will come back to haunt every single one of these people, and it will be all that they're known for the rest of their lives. It's bigger than they actually could fathom today. And people like myself, David, Brett, and yourself will make sure that we never let anybody ever forget the names of the people who were involved with the insurrection. Yep. That Trump incited in the first place. So there will be unity, but it involves uniting with us because we have the plan, we have the purpose. They didn't, they failed. So now it's our time to take charge. And so we would love for any Republican, independent, any American to join us in these efforts and unite with us. But we aren't going to bend on anything because we're done bending.
No, I'm right there with you. We need to etch it on their tombstones so that it is forever ever attached to them. So let's wrap this up. I want to get everyone's final thoughts real quick. Let's start with you, Brett. What's your final thought on this?
Let's see. I think I'm going to save my final thought for one of my Republican senators, a gentleman named Rob Portman. Rob Portman is leaving, is resigning. Well, he's retiring, so he's not running for office again in 2022. And even with that cover, even when his career is over and he is free to vote his conscience in a way that most people are not, he still voted to acquit today. And I think that of all the votes today, that was the most cowardly one of all. And so I'm going to exit with that.
Yeah, I had thought it was either going to be him or Burr was my seventh vote. So I guess I was not surprised it wasn't Portman. David, your last thought?
I had a different last thought, but now that Brett said that, it reminds me of the guy I have behind me here, and the fact that he voted for impeachment last year when everything was looking against him in a situation where it was probably going to cost him his entire career, and he still did it. And he did it because it was the right thing. He did it twice on both counts. And then on top of that, he was the first senator to say Black Lives Matter on the Senate floor. And he ran a civil rights campaign all the way through the Deep South. That's courage. The Democrats still have courage, and we still have decency, and that's why we're winning. Being on this call has given me a lot of hope. Scott and what he's been talking about, and that all the wins we've had, and Brett, kind of getting into Ohio there too. We have an opportunity with the open seat with Tim Ryan, hopefully. But my final thought on this is hope, guys. It's we won. We've won on every single level, and we've seen real courage, and that's what we have, and you can't fake that. So
great stuff. And finally, your thoughts, Scott?
Sure. I told Tim to run. I think he should run. I think he should absolutely run. I think he'll win, and I think he'd be phenomenal, especially for unions. Being from Youngstown, guy can throw football. Yep. This all matters to me as a Browns fan. But
he passes the beer test, and that's important.
I didn't know that he did that before because he was clean shaven guy as I am apparently now. It's COVID stuff going crazy. I want to remind everybody that there are dozens of legitimate investigations ongoing right now, just into things involving PPP loans, just into things involving coronavirus corruption, just into things from Trump's overall corruption with lobbying schemes and everything else. There are hundreds of little and enormous icebergs that we've seen the tips of. And the truth will come out because we're in power now. And so I think this is a good time for us to reset and take the opportunity to purge Trump from us and make sure that we actually leave him in the dust. And I don't know how we do that because we will take such joy in, or some kind of solemn joy where he faces justice and his associates, his fellow accomplices face justice. As they do, that will help with the unity because it'll be like, I'm not going to act like I'm standing with that guy who's a criminal and going to prison. I don't think that it's going to be really tough for people to fight against us because I'll tell you this, we've never been more united as a party. David put together this coalition of the 4 groups within days, if not hours today, to put together a fundraising effort to raise $1 million for 4 organizations that have been doing the work forever. And so I think we're in a great spot. And that's just like that's something he did on the side where it's like, oh, maybe we should do that. And it just comes together so quickly now. Like, we need an ad. Oh, rapid response, Demcast on it. Oh, we need someone in this rural area. Oh, hey, let's go. Oh, Jada goes over there with No Dem Left Behind. And the Dem Coalition is there to make sure that we acknowledge every member of Congress who is a seditionist, and we will be investigating every single one of them and appropriately filing whatever we can do to push up against them. But the great news is we don't have Trump as that barrier or distraction or clown anymore as of right now. And so I think we'll just have to deal with the fact that we were in an abusive relationship with the President of the United States. And once we face the fact that he wanted to kill people, and we confront that, and Republicans accept that, they can come and unite with us. And I think that, but I want to be very clear with everybody. People will go to prison. There's hundreds of people who worked with the White House and outside of it that will go to prison, without a doubt. I've seen evidence, like this is not a Sidney Powell kind of like scheme or whatever. These are elected officials talking about serious crimes that have been committed. Just alone the corruption that involves the assault and injury of separating kids from their families, that alone is dozens of people headed to prison. There's so many things that are enormous, terrible things that we're going to have to reveal and then take accountability as our country for, right? Because we're going to be in charge, and it's like, oh, there's this gigantic, they left this kid in a freezer overnight to punish him, and he's dead, and so they murdered him, and so we've got to confront that. That comes out, and that's elevated, and so we're going to have these scars that we've got to reopen because it was just they healed, but we didn't actually heal, and so we're there, but we got to brace ourselves for the bad part, which is the truth coming out is great, but it's also awful. So I look forward to these icebergs, though, and justice being served. I look forward to working with you and Brett and also with David. This is going to be a great journey. And I know I've meditated a lot today, so I'm very positive with things. I also made up some cuss words earlier today when I found out we weren't going to have witnesses. So it goes both ways.
So which ones were those? Since I'm going to give you the second to let it out, since next time you'll be on the terrestrial radio program, and I don't want you to feel the need to then bomb those out.
I think Schmucky Furblbash was one of them.
Oh, I guess you could have gotten away with that.
I'm able to, there was a long time ago where I worked as a floater in a daycare where I would go to whatever room I was assigned. So I'm used to working with children, and there's a, that potty mouth thing of like, if you stub your toe or whatever, you end up saying something like strawberries ice cream. Like, I've gotten good at that. And also you don't want it on live TV or anything like that, be cussing. And so I've gotten that beat in my head.
Nice.
But it was definitely, things are looking up in the grand scheme of things. Look at the mountain we've climbed, be proud of it, enjoy it, savor it for the weekend. And remember that we're saying goodbye to Donald John Trump, and we are done with him as of this moment.
And then we get to work on Monday to start kicking ass again, as David said. Guys, I appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate the time. I look forward to you back on the program real soon. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you guys.
Excellent stuff. I'm glad they took a little time to share some thoughts on this. I'll tell you, I'm, as I said, very, very pissed off at the beginning that they let the witnesses things not happen. For me now is an opportunity to, as they said, we take this win, we move forward, and we fight. Thanks so much for tuning into our special edition. Our program's every weeknight, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. You can get it right here where you're at, or local listings across the country. If you got any thoughts, questions, comments, I'd love to hear them. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you back here next time.